Over the last few years, the Clemson Tigers have gotten accustomed to having big-time defensive tackles, and that first started with Dexter Lawrence. He'll go down as one of the best players in school history. In 2019, they landed Tyler Davis, who was also one of the most ferocious defensive tackles in his class, and most recently have developed Brian Bresee into a likely top 10 pick in just a couple of weeks. Right now though, they have a guy who could be better than all three of those players and is getting a ridiculous amount of praise. Some are saying he could be one of the best players to ever play for Clemson, has NFL written all over him, and could be the most impactful defensive freshman in the country. That is absolutely insane, and today we're going to talk about this guy's hype. You probably first want to know who we're talking about, and the subject of today's video is Peter Woods. Going back in time, Woods has always been about football, as he grew up in the town of Alabaster, Alabama, which is an hour away from Tuscaloosa, and he was a fan of the Crimson Tide. He would continue to develop his game, and eventually would grow into a complete monster, which made his rise to the top happen very quickly. His high school coach knew he was going to be special in 8th grade when he stepped in on JV and laid a violent hit on an upperclassman running back. They knew from his first 8th grade practice that he was going to be big time, and he lived up to all the hype. That player that he hit in that drill was a future Charlotte running back, and Woods would also get to develop alongside future Alabama player Jeremiah Alexander. Things were setting up well for Peter Woods. While being a junior at Thompson High School, he had 11 sacks and 26 tackles for loss. Those were pretty nice stats, but it was his physical traits and potential, which is why every coach in the country put Woods at the top of their recruiting board. He'd have his choice of schools, but where was he going to go? Well, the home state power of Alabama was the early frontrunner, and he fit the mold of a typical Tide player. It seemed like a ball and glove fit, and nothing could break that bond up. Except that is not what would happen. He eventually committed to Clemson over Alabama, and he said the Tigers went out because it felt like home there with the coaches, and they had a real desire to care about him as more than just a football player. This would end up paying off in a big way for Dabo Swinney, and was a huge loss for Nick Saban in Alabama, as he was in the Crimson Tide's backyard. A few months earlier, this also looked impossible. One scout for On3 said, quote, 6 weeks, 2 months ago, you probably get 99% Alabama. But that official visit to Clemson in early June went extremely well and changed it all. The Tigers ended up winning out and got a player who was not human. According to ESPN's rankings, Woods was the #1 defensive player in the country and the #4 overall prospect. ESPN was higher on Woods than many other outlets, as according to the 24/7 Sports composite, Woods was a 5-star recruit, the #3 defensive lineman, and the 33rd best player in the class of 2023. He was still elite, but near the bottom of that list. This one surprises me, as he absolutely filled up the stat sheet while he was in high school. He finished his career with 260 tackles, 72 tackles for loss, and 29.5 sacks. What's even more impressive is as a senior, he had 90 of those tackles and 8 of those sacks, and apparently he was double teamed every single play. His team ended up going 50-5 throughout his career, and they won 4 straight state titles. The guy was a winner, had insane stats, and also had insane physical potential. Clemson was getting arguably the most ferocious player in high school football, and the kind of lineman that can change the game and win on the biggest stage. I would tend to agree more with ESPN's rankings after researching Woods, but maybe you think I'm exaggerating about this guy a little bit. Well, let's go through a couple of examples of the hype. Let's first start with Clemson defensive line coach Tony Eason. He said that Woods has the potential to be a first-team All-American, has been unblockable in practice so far, and could be one of the best to ever come through Clemson. If you want more, let's ask ESPN analyst Tom Luginbill. He said, quote, many will probably make the comparison to Tyler Davis, who a few years earlier blew up in 2019. Right now, Woods is just throwing people around. We also have the head coach of Clemson hyping him up. Someone asked Dabo in a press conference if Woods had any deficiencies. He said nope, he ain't got none, and that he just needs to get some game experience, and it's one of the reasons he wants a full crowd for the spring game. His rally cry, let's get Peter Woods ready to go. If that's not enough for you to believe the hype, let's turn it over to a scout. He said, quote, the biggest quarterback disruptor in this class is also the only non-quarterback in the top 5 of the ESPN 300. He jumped into our radar as a sophomore and not only solidified his 5-star status as a senior, but earned a bump inside the top 10 with a dominant performance during the Under Armour All-American game. At 6'3" and 275 pounds, his lack of length may concern some, but his explosiveness is undeniable. He is extremely quick off the snap, can play with leverage and power, and has a tenacious finishing style. Clemson has developed some elite defensive linemen in recent years, including Myles Murphy and Brian Bresee, and Woods has already demonstrated the ability to be the next great Tigers defensive lineman. Peter Woods is a guy you need to watch out for this year, and I'm excited to see what he does. Before you go, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed today's video, give me your thoughts if you're a Clemson fan, let me know another freshman I can cover next, and don't forget to check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.